I was around 15, 16.
15, 16 years old. Now, what was your first? See, I've yet to see something, and it's always intriguing for me to ask people who have seen a UFO that really got them started because people assume that about me. I've been in this field now for about 12 years or so, and really have dedicated part of my life. But yet, I have no story to tell. When people tell me, "Hey, how did you get started?" I really have no cool story like that. So the reason I'm asking is because my interest is just curiosity. This for you, obviously, this made an impression for you at the age of 15, 16, which I was 15 myself when I was struck by curiosity. What was it that you thought it was? I mean, when you saw all these military planes show up, did you were you in tune enough with the topic to say, "Hey, that must have been a UFO. Look at all the military jets showing up," or what went through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it did, cross my mind that it was, a UFO. And, even though I had not really started, getting, let's say, fully interested in, on these different aspects of the paranormal, I'd always been a believer of possibilities. Of course, even at that age, you hear about UFOs and people talk about them and whatnot. So it was definitely something that crossed my mind. And like I said, his mother was also very interested in UFOs. And when I would come over and visit, she was always talking about them. And it took a while for him to warm up. That she would walk in the room and here he is with his friend, and she goes on about seeing a UFO. I mean, he used to kind of shoo her out of the room like, "Mom, just be quiet." And I finally had to set him down and be like, "Hey, I believe it's very possible." I said, "That I'm not going to think your mother's crazy." But it took that experience to really, I guess start taking it seriously and say, okay, there is something out there, more than what we think we know.
Now, you can visit your radio show online, www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com. It's also syndicated and now broadcast on blackvaultradio.com or BVRN. But I wanted to ask you about another site that you run, because I'm sure this jumps ahead a little bit in your life, easternparanormalinvestigators.com. And it looks like you've got a group of people now that go out and investigate these sightings. So this UFO sighting that you had in your past must have made quite an impression because now you're getting out there in the field. Tell me a little bit about that. What do you do?
Okay, well, the group started probably about close to 3 years now, and it was me and my friend, the one who actually experienced the UFO with me, and him and his family. Now he's passed away now, but we started the group. We went out on October 31st of '05, and to a cemetery to try to record some EVPs. And like I said, we'd always, through those years, been really interested in the paranormal and haven't really done anything to that extent. And
Now, can
I
I get you to explain what an EVP is for listeners who may not be familiar with that?
Yeah, I sure can. Especially talking about ghosts and hauntings. When someone goes to a location, take some kind of recording device, whether it be cassette, digital, whatever means you've got, and they'll record themselves asking questions or just even silence, and sometimes. And what will happen is you go back and you listen to this audio that you've recorded, and you'll hear voices on it that you didn't hear while you were present or wasn't in the room at the time. A good
Mm-hmm.
example, say there's two males in a room, and you're just chit-chatting back and forth, and you go back and listen to the audio, and then there's a female voice present within that conversation, and it could say something off the wall, it can interact with the conversation, and even some cases answer a question that you've asked, like what's your name, or how long you've been here, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a disembodied voice that's been recorded on some type of audio recording device.
Interesting. Okay, so you went to the cemetery to record this phenomena, or try to.
Right. So we headed out to a local cemetery and decided that, we're going to give this a shot because it sounded very simple. All you needed was a recording device, and I mean, who doesn't have those?
Mm-hmm.
So we took off to the cemetery, Halloween night, about 10 o'clock at night, and we stayed there for about an hour. And we told ourselves even on our way out there, hey, we're not going to expect to get anything because anybody that investigates or deals with the paranormal will know it doesn't happen on cue. It's going to happen when it wants to. And so we were driving back home, and we sat down and started listening to our recordings, and sure enough, we had like four or five really good EVPs that, an answer to a question like "What's your name?"
Mm-hmm.
Interactions with the conversation. So,
Really?
immediately we were just like, okay, let's form a group. We talked about it, and now we can start learning more about going out there and doing things. And we started Eastern Paranormal Investigators. on that night, more or less, we started putting it together. So it's been almost 3 years now we've been doing it.
Wow, interesting. So let me ask you, how clear are these voices when you record them?
Oh, they can range. They can be very whispery, very low, where you really have to go in and mess around with the audio to kind of bring that volume up. And sometimes they can be clear as day, like somebody had the microphone right up to their mouth. I mean, they really range, and they have classes. Like a Class A is one that is very clear and distinct. You can pretty much understand what it's saying. So, they do have the classes to rate each one in.
Interesting. Now, the last episode that we did here on the Black Vault Radio, I had John Nowinski on from the Smoking Gun Research Agency, and he was talking about some of the ghost stories. And these shows are obviously going back to back, but I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked him. It just would freak me out if I started hearing those voices or knowing that something was around me. Does it scare you at all?
It really doesn't. I have to say that the first time I'd ever heard about EVPs, I listened to them on somebody's website. And quite honestly, I sat there for 3 hours. I mean, these people have like pages after pages, and it's basically that's what their main part of their research is. It's just, EVPs, which stands for electronic voice phenomenon, by the way. And I couldn't sleep that night. I seriously could not even hang my arm over the side of the bed.
Yeah.
Because it freaked me out. But, as you get more into it and you research more, it doesn't really seem to bother you to go back and hear them. I mean, it'll send a chill up your spine. I mean, no doubt when you ask a question, some voice wasn't there gives you an answer.
Right.
But now I've never really experienced anything at a location, never heard a voice or seen something appear, and you can say, yeah, I won't be scared if that happens, but you don't know until it happens. That's really what's going to tell you how you're going to react.
Right. Well, now here's the $1,000,000 question of that night when you guys were in the cemetery recording these things, and you like you mentioned, got voices. What did they say?
Well, one, we asked, what's your name? And the answer was, my name is Ray. At least we got Ray out of it. You could say Ray, Ralph, anything along those lines.
But full sentence like that. It didn't just say Ray. It said my name was Ray?
Right.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
One of the other ones was, now it's kind of funny because we had seen a light up in the sky, and it was kind of moving weird. Didn't look like a star, didn't really look like a plane. And of course, my friend was like, "Hey, that looks like maybe it's a UFO." And we started talking about the light, and then somehow it turned into this about some of the ages of the tombstones that were there, and about UFOs that were reported back a couple hundred years ago and whatnot. And one of the tombstone was dated. It was 1760 something, I think it was. And
wow.
We had made the comment, or he had made the comment, wow, that's hard to believe. And I said, yeah. And you can hear this voice coming over top of me. He says, yeah, that is right.
Wow.
And it wasn't him, and it wasn't me, because you can actually hear my voice mixed in with it. So, I mean, I can't speak two voices at one time. So, it had to be an EVP.
That's scary stuff. You're listening to Jeremiah Greer right here on the Black Vault Radio. His show, host of Shadows in the Dark, is now available on BVRN or www.blackvaultradio.com. Make sure you visit Jeremiah online and his show and archive, www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com. And we're talking about his paranormal investigations. Kind of scary stuff here on the Black Vault Radio this week. Ghosts across the board. And check him out online and his investigations at www.easternparanormalinvestigators.com. There's much more coming up right here on the Black Vault Radio. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Black Vault Radio. I am your host, John Greenewald Jr., joined with the host of Shadows in the Dark, right now broadcasting on BVRN, Jeremiah Greer. Jeremiah, welcome back to the show. You're telling us some great stuff about your investigations into the paranormal and your time at the cemetery. You got this name of Ralph, then you see these graves that are from the 1700s. Did you search around for a tombstone? No, I'm sorry, I said Ralph, but you thought it was Ray, which could have been construed as Ralph. Regardless of the name, did you search around at the tombstones to see if, hey, maybe there was a Ray or Ralph there?
Well, we did that night. Looked at some of the names and kind of noted them, and we even revisited this same cemetery with success again, believe it or not. But we never seen anything Ray or Ralph. Now, the way that the cemetery was set up is that the newer graves, of course, were down on the lower side beside the church, and where we were at was the older part of the cemetery.